The peaceful morning shattered when sirens echoed across Silver Pine Lake. I froze on my new dock, watching as two police cruisers skidded to a dusty stop beside my moving truck. My grip tightened around the cardboard box marked Kitchen. Fragile. Just as a woman in a neon pink visor marched toward the officers, waving a clipboard like a battle flag. Behind her, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered, some still in robes, all craning their necks to witness the scene. "That's him!" she shrieked, pointing a manicured finger at me with such force I half expected it to shoot lasers. "He's trespassing on private property. Arrest him immediately! He's been here since 6 a.m., making noise and disturbing our peaceful community." The lead officer, a calm man with graying temples, looked between us, clearly confused. His younger partner already fought to suppress a smirk. "Ma'am, can you explain what's happening here?" he asked. The woman, who I would later learn was Carol Peaton, self-appointed queen of the Lakeshore Estates HOA, puffed herself up like an angry peacock. Her rhinestone-studded tracksuit strained at the seams as she planted her hands on her hips. "This man is illegally occupying this cabin," she declared. "He has no permits, no authorization from our board, and he's violating at least 17 of our community bylaws. I have everything documented right here." She thrust the clipboard forward like it was evidence in a murder trial. I carefully set my box down and pulled out my phone. "Officer, I'm Drew Sullivan. I own this property. Just closed on it last week." I showed him the digital deed on my screen. "It belonged to my late uncle, Frank. He left it to me in his will." Carol's face turned an impressive shade of purple. "Impossible." "Every property on this lake is under HOA jurisdiction. I personally oversee all new residents, and this man never submitted an application." The officer examined my documents while Carol ranted. Finally, with patient professionalism, he said, "Ma'am, this gentleman owns the property. Unless you have evidence of criminal activity, there's nothing for us to do here," Carol sputtered, her voice climbing. "But he hasn't paid his HOA fees. He hasn't attended orientation, and his truck is blocking the scenic view." The younger officer stepped in. "Is his property actually part of your HOA?" "Of course it is. Everything within a mile of Lakeshore Estates belongs to us." Carol barked. I couldn't help but interject. "Actually, this cabin predates your neighborhood by 40 years. My uncle never joined any HOA." Her eyes narrowed to slits behind glittering sunglasses. "We'll see about that, Mr. Sullivan. Nobody makes a fool of Carol Peaton. Nobody." With that, she stomped away, hot pink sneakers squeaking on the gravel. Some neighbors lingered awkwardly. An elderly man gave me a sympathetic nod. A young couple quickly averted their eyes. The battle lines were already being drawn. After the police left, one of them whispering good luck as they departed, Carol planted herself at the edge of my property like a gargoyle in yoga pants. She set up a folding chair and table, complete with a thermos of vanilla latte and a telephoto lens camera straight out of a nature documentary. She snapped photos of everything. The truck, my boxes, even the sandwich I'd left on the porch railing. "That's improperly stored food," she shouted. "Health code violation. Wildlife hazard." I glanced from my turkey on rye to her. "It's a sandwich, Carol. That's President Peaton to you," she barked, scribbling furiously. "And that's another violation, failure to address HOA leadership by title. That's a $50 fine." For the next 3 days, Carol became my personal nightmare. At exactly 7 a.m. each morning, she arrived with fresh accusations. My dock was 2 inches too long. My trash cans were the wrong color. The movers left tire tracks on the gravel. "These infractions carry serious fines," she announced on day 3, shoving papers at me. "That's $900 for unauthorized dock usage, $600 for non-compliant refuse containers, and $1,100 for road damage." I scanned the documents, Comic Sans font, clip art borders, the works. "Carol, I've told you repeatedly, I'm not part of your HOA. These fines have no legal standing." Her laugh grated like a rusty gate. "Oh, you sweet summer child. The Lakeshore Estates HOA governs the entire waterfront. Your uncle may have gotten away with his rebellious ways, but I've been president for 6 years. Things have changed. She wasn't wrong about change, just not in the way she imagined." That evening, I dug through the county clerk's online records. What I found made my jaw drop. Not only had my property never been part of the HOA, but the association had spent years illegally encroaching on public land. Their private beach, built on state-protected shoreline. Their boat launch, extended into wetlands. Their scenic trail, cut through property they didn't own. And the smoking gun, emails between Carol and past board members, plotting to expand territory by bullying non-members into submission. The next morning, armed with this evidence, I started making calls. The State Environmental Agency wanted to hear about the wetlands violations. The county commissioner had questions about illegal structures. The Department of Natural Resources was suddenly interested in public access restrictions. Meanwhile, Carol escalated. I returned from the grocery store to find bright orange tape crisscrossing my dock like a crime scene. A laminated notice nailed to a tree accused me of violating Regulation 473B, unauthorized watercraft mooring, even though I didn't own a boat. She'd even recruited a compliance committee, 3 visor-wearing women who trailed her like ducklings. They patrolled the property line, documenting everything. When I grilled burgers, they noted excessive smoke emissions. When I hammered a loose board, they cited unauthorized construction. The pettiness peaked when Carol arrived with a decibel meter. She proudly announced, 82 decibels. That's above our peaceful enjoyment threshold of 75. Carol, I said evenly, refusing to let the ridiculousness rattle me. That's no louder than a garbage disposal. Are you honestly threatening to fine me for walking? It's not walking, she snapped. It's aggressive stomping, meant to disturb. She flourished her noise meter like a sorceress with a wand. And I have 3 witnesses. Her committee bobbed their heads in perfect unison, their sun visors bouncing like synchronized swimmers. That was the moment my patience snapped. I documented every word, every gesture, then launched my counterattack. Within a week, the first inspector arrived. Carol, armed with her clipboard, hurried to intercept him, her grin faltering when he introduced himself as an investigator from the State Environmental Agency. From my porch, coffee in hand, I watched as he measured the HOA's beach, gathered soil samples from their boat launch, and took notes with clinical precision. More officials followed. The county surveyor spent 2 days hammering in markers, reestablishing property lines. The Public Access Committee investigated blocked lake entryways. With each visit, Carol grew more frantic, her once pristine visor tilting more askew. When the HOA emergency meeting convened at the Lakeshore Estates clubhouse, I attended, not as a member, but as a concerned neighbor. The room buzzed with anxiety. Carol stood at the podium struggling to keep control. "This is nothing more than targeted harassment," she declared, flinging an arm in my direction. "Our newest neighbor is bitter about reasonable fees and regulations, so he's called in inspectors to intimidate us." A man in the front row raised his hand. "Carol, is it true the state fined us $50,000 for a wetlands violation?" Her face drained of color. "That's still under negotiation." "What about the cease and desist order for the beach?" a woman demanded. "My kids love that place." "Temporary setback," Carol stammered. "My husband's cousin is a lawyer. He says we can appeal." I rose slowly. "May I address the board?" Her glare could have scorched steel. "You're not a member. You have no right to speak here." "Actually," the treasurer interrupted, "given this affects the entire community, I think we should hear him out." I stepped forward, opening a folder. "These are the original lake surveys, the state's findings, and the legal boundaries of your HOA." As I handed out copies, silence thickened. "Your association has been exercising authority over land it doesn't own. My cabin, 3 vintage properties on the North Shore, and nearly 2 acres of state-protected waterfront." Chaos erupted. Residents shouted over one another. Board members flipped through the pages, their faces bleaching with every paragraph. Carol slammed her gavel so hard it snapped, sending the head flying into the lemonade table. "Lies!" she shrieked, her voice sharp enough to set off dogs down the street. "This man is a fraud, a troublemaker conspiring with the government to destroy us." The treasurer lifted one of the papers. "Carol, this email came from your account. It literally says, quote, establish dominance over non-compliant shoreline properties through persistent enforcement." That's out of context, she sputtered, her face matching her red tracksuit. The subject line, another board member muttered, is Operation Total Lake Control. The meeting unraveled completely. A resident named Janet stood, waving her own stack of papers. Carol fined me $600 because my kayak was the wrong shade of blue, $400 because my dock mat was too whimsical, and $800 because my wind chimes were culturally inappropriate. They're just wind chimes. More residents piled on. Tom from Unit 12 was fined for his gnome's aggressive expression. Sally got a citation for her bird feeder because it attracted non-approved wildlife. By the time everyone had spoken, it was undeniable. Carol's reign of terror had spread far beyond my cabin. The judge's ruling was merciless. The Lakeshore Estates HOA had violated multiple state regulations. All unauthorized structures on protected land had to be removed within 60 days. The HOA was permanently barred from claiming control of any waterfront beyond its deeded property. Fines totaled $175,000, but the final blow crushed Carol. Due to evidence of intentional misrepresentation and harassment of non-member property owners, the judge declared, Ms. Carol Peaton is prohibited from serving in any HOA leadership position for 10 years. Her shriek shook the courtroom. You can't do this! I built this community. I am the HOA! She lunged toward the bench, visor flying off as her husband grabbed her arm. 10 years. I'll sue everyone! I'll appeal! Miss Peaton, the judge thundered, gavel slamming. You are in contempt. An additional $5,000 fine. Carol crumpled into her chair, pale and gasping like a beached fish, while her neighbors filed out quietly, careful not to meet her eyes.